General of the United States, William Barr, the Deputy Attorney General, Jeffrey Rosen, and the Principal Deputy Associate Attorney General, Claire McCusker Murray.
Thank you. Please be seated. Ladies and gentlemen, members of Congress, commissioners, and distinguished guests, good morning and welcome to today's ceremony. My name is Claire Murray, and I am the Principal Deputy Associate Attorney General. It is my distinct honor to be on stage today with the Attorney General and the Deputy Attorney General of the United States as we come together to launch the President's Commission on Law Enforcement and the Administration of Justice and to swear in its commissioners. The Department of Justice is honored to play a leading role in the Commission, supporting law enforcement, including by ensuring that they have the tools, training, and information they need to protect our communities, is central to the missions of both this administration and the Department of Justice. The responsibility for overseeing and leading the Commission is one we undertake solemnly and with due regard for the importance of the work. As we begin today's program, I would ask that you please stand for the presentation of the colors by the Montgomery County, Maryland Police Department Color Guard and the singing of the National Anthem by Jarrell Takahashi of the Office of Community-Oriented Policing Services.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say thus that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave. Please join with me in reciting the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please join me in thanking the Montgomery County, Maryland Police Department Color Guard and Ms. Takahashi. Please be seated. I would now like to introduce the Deputy Attorney General, Jeffrey Rosen. Mr. Rosen is the 38th Deputy Attorney General of the United States, the DAG in DOJ lingo. The DAG acts as the department's chief operating officer and advises the Attorney General in leading a department of more than 110,000 employees. Mr. Rosen received a BA with highest distinction from Northwestern University and a JD, magna cum laude, from Harvard Law School. He has had a distinguished career in both private practice and public service. In private practice, he served for many years as a senior litigation partner at the international law firm of Kirkland & Ellis, where he handled complex litigation across the United States, including jury trials, bench trials, arbitrations, and appellate arguments. Among his wide-ranging litigation practice were cases involving antitrust, securities, contracts, RICO, business torts, trade secrets, government enforcement actions, products liability, class actions, and regulatory matters. In the public sphere, he has been confirmed by the Senate no fewer than 3 times. He comes to the Department of Justice from the Department of Transportation, where he served as that agency's deputy secretary. Earlier in his career, he served as general counsel and senior policy advisor for the White House Office of Management and Budget, and as general counsel for the Department of Transportation. He was also appointed public member of the Administrative Conference of the United States. The DAG is a committed public servant and a forceful advocate for law and justice. He is a strong supporter of our nation's law enforcement. Please join me in welcoming Deputy Attorney General Jeffrey Rosen.
Well, good morning. I want to thank everybody for your attendance and for your support for this very special event. It's my deep honor to participate in the inauguration of an institution as significant and eminent as the President's Law Enforcement Commission. Before I get started, I would like to take just a second to recognize some guests from the White House who've joined us for this extraordinary occasion to express their support for law enforcement, including Assistant to the President Kellyanne Conway, Assistant to the President Joe Grogan, and Deputy Assistant to the President Jerron Smith. Thank you all for being here. And we appreciate we appreciate your support for American law enforcement. So everyone gathered here today doubtlessly understands how important law enforcement is to a free and safe society. We can have neither liberty nor security if citizens live in fear of criminals, and also if they do not trust the government officials charged with their security. Many of you also recognize that law enforcement has never been an easy job, and that perhaps has never been more true than today. While we all admire and appreciate the brave men and women who have devoted their lives to keeping us safe, we should also always find means to improve law enforcement. We owe it to them, and we owe it to us, to make American police the most capable and trusted public servants trained to face modern challenges. It's been over 50 years since we have systematically studied ways to accomplish this. Back in 1965, President Johnson authorized a similar law enforcement commission to study ways to reduce crime. Much has changed in the half-century since. A new evaluation of how American law enforcement can best serve their communities and how we can best address the criminal problems of our time is something we very much need. This is a monumental calling that will require an exceptional and diverse collection of law enforcement leaders. Fortunately, today we are joined by the men and women who will be the commissioners of this important undertaking. The Department of Justice selected these commissioners from all sectors of the law enforcement community: urban police departments, county sheriffs, state attorney generals and prosecutors, elected officials, United States attorneys, and federal law enforcement agencies. So they come from distinct states, cities, counties, and towns all across our country, but share a common mission of safeguarding their respective communities from a variety of threats. It is now my honor to introduce the commissioners of the President's Law Enforcement Commission today. I would ask that you hold your applause to the end. So first, we have Phil Keith, who I would like to introduce as the chairman of the Law Enforcement Commission. Phil Keith currently serves as the 6th Director of the U.S. Department of Justice's Office of Community-Oriented Policing Services. Next, I'm also pleased to introduce the Vice Chair of the Commission, Katie Sullivan, who currently serves as Principal Deputy Assistant Attorney General in the Office of Justice Programs. As I proceed to the Commissioners, I'll start with David Bowditch, who's been Deputy Director of the FBI since March 2018. I would also like to introduce Sheriff James Clemens Jr., who currently serves as the Sheriff of Richmond County, North Carolina. D. Christopher Evans, who currently serves as the Drug Enforcement Administration's Chief of Operations and Assistant Administrator of the Operations Division. Next, Frederick Frazier, who not only serves as an officer in the Dallas Police Department, but also as a city council member for the city of McKinney, Texas. Next, Sheriff Bob Galtieri, who currently serves as the Sheriff of Pinellas County, Florida. And then Police Chief Gina V. Hawkins, who currently serves as the Chief of Police of Fayetteville, North Carolina. Coming back to federal law enforcement, Regina Lombardo, who currently serves as the Acting Director of the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives. Then one of our United States attorneys, Erica McDonald, who currently is our United States Attorney for the District of Minnesota. Moving over to states, we have Ashley Moody, who is the Florida Attorney General. And we have Nancy Parr, who currently serves as the Commonwealth Attorney for Chesapeake, Virginia. And we have Craig Price, who currently serves as the Cabinet Secretary of the South Dakota Department of Public Safety. And Gordon Ramsey, who currently serves as the Chief of Police for Wichita, Kansas. Next, David Rausch, who currently serves as the Director of the Tennessee Bureau of Investigation. And then Sheriff John Semeniego, who currently serves as the Sheriff of Shelby County, Alabama. And then Sergeant James Smallwood, who is Sergeant with the Nashville Metropolitan Police Department and is the current President of the Nashville Fraternal Order of Police. And then finally, Donald Washington, who currently serves as the Director of the United States Marshal Service. So now, please join me in thanking all of these men and women for their participation in this historic commission. Thank you all very much for your willingness to serve in this important activity, and we very much look forward to collaborating and working with you. So next, I would like to introduce somebody I think you all know, as just it's been my honor to introduce these fine men and women as our commissioners. It is also my pleasure to introduce the Attorney General of the United States. William Barr is the 85th Attorney General of the United States, and he is one of only 2 people in American history to serve twice as Attorney General. As Deputy Attorney General, I can say with confidence that Attorney General Barr shares our deep respect for law enforcement and a keen appreciation for the significance of today's event. And so, without further ado, let me give you the Attorney General, William Barr.
Thank you, Jeff. Good morning, everybody, and thank you for joining us. It was a little less than 3 months ago. Many of us were together in Chicago at the IACP convention when the president signed the executive order to establish this commission, and so it's a particular privilege today to announce the formation and inauguration of that Commission on Law Enforcement and the Administration of Justice. And I want to start by recognizing the hard work and vision of many of you here today in the law enforcement community. including Pat Yos and Jim Pasco of the Fraternal Order of Police, as well as Chief Stevens, Chief Sell, Vince Tolucci, and Terry Cunningham of the IACP. I particularly want to recognize the work of IACP, which for over the last 20 years has made the establishment of this commission a national priority. And without that commitment, we wouldn't be here today. We look forward to working with the IACP and all the law enforcement groups represented here today to make this effort a success. In addition to those who the deputy already welcomed here, I'd also like to thank two individuals who will be speaking later during the program who have come here to participate. Commissioner Ben Tucker of the New York Police Department and retired Commissioner Kathy O'Toole of the Boston Police Department. Now, President Trump is an unwavering supporter of our men and women in blue, and he recognized that this commission is much needed to support law enforcement. And it is, to be sure, long overdue. As the deputy mentioned, the last time there was a national commission on law enforcement was in 1965. Much about our world has changed in the decades since President Johnson's commission. The incredible pace of technological change has meant the rapid evolution of new ways to commit and conceal crimes. All of you, because you're on the front lines, know this very well. You see it every day, from the proliferation of synthetic opioids to the use of warrant-proof encryption and the dark web to sexually exploit the most vulnerable members of our society. This commission is critical, not only because it is timely, but also because few callings are more essential to the strength and prosperity of our nation than that of law enforcement. It is the rule of law that is fundamental to ensuring both freedom and security, and it is our more than 900,000 men and women on the beat every day who uphold the rule of law. I have said it before, there is no more noble calling in America than serving as a law enforcement officer. At the same time, law enforcement faces more and greater challenges than ever before. If the new obstacles presented by technology weren't enough, in many communities, our officers also must confront a wave of social problems, such as homelessness and drug addiction and mental illness, problems that demand solutions beyond their authority and expertise. Further, there has been, especially of late, a disturbing pattern and cynicism of disrespect shown to law enforcement. This has resulted in greater violence against law enforcement officers. All Americans should agree that nobody wins when trust breaks down between the police and the community they serve. We need to address this divide. As a result of the significant challenges faced by law enforcement officials today, many departments are reporting declines in hiring and morale. It is particularly alarming that last year more officers died of suicide than any year previously recorded. In fact, more officers died by suicide than in the line of duty last year. These are just a few of the reasons why President Trump directed me to establish this commission. We must not only study crime to forge strategies for reducing it, but examine ways for promoting the profession of law enforcement in order to uplift those who answer the call to public service and to help them earn the trust of the communities that they protect. Accordingly, the commission will comprehensively assess the most pressing issues confronting law enforcement today. It will seek to provide substantive and actionable answers to, among other questions, the following. How do certain social ills, such as mental illness, substance abuse, and homelessness, affect the ability of law enforcement to carry out its duties? How can we improve the relationship between the police and the communities they serve? How can officers' recruitment, training, and retention be improved? What are the major issues affecting the physical safety and mental health of police officers? What unique challenges and criminal threats have resulted from new technologies? What is the cause of the apparent diminished respect for police officials and the laws they enforce? And how is public safety affected? How can we integrate education, employment, social services, and public health services to help reduce crime and ease the burden on law enforcement? The Commission will principally conduct its studies through hearings, panel presentations, field visits, and other public meetings. At these engagements, the Commission will receive valuable insights, counsel, and recommendations from a diverse range of voices: subject matter experts, public officials, private citizens, academia, community organizations, civil liberties groups, bar associations, and victims rights groups. While I am proud to announce the formation of this commission, I'm also pleased by the distinguished individuals who will serve as commissioners. The Department of Justice was required to assemble a relatively small group from a large pool of highly qualified candidates who were interested in participating. We appointed these commissioners based on a variety of criteria, seeking a range of different perspectives. We specifically sought out candidates who have had significant experience formulating law enforcement policy and leading law enforcement organizations. As you see here today, these commissioners come from across the country with diverse backgrounds from all levels of government, and they have directly confronted, in many contexts, the issues that are going to be studied. They are police chiefs from big cities, from smaller ones, state prosecutors, county sheriffs, members of rural and tribal law enforcement, state public safety officials, federal agents, U.S. attorneys, and state attorney generals. And they have traveled from all over the country to participate in this historic moment. I say to each of you serving as commissioners, you have the mandate to examine the entirety of how we carry out law enforcement in our country. And I ask that you think creatively and boldly, that you test new ideas, that you plan for the future, that you consider diverse opinions and approaches, and challenge each other and challenge the Department of Justice. Your work is important to our success. Our nation is ready for you to begin this critical enterprise, and your efforts may well influence generations. On behalf of the President and the entire Department of Justice, thank you for your service to the country. And now I will ask the commissioners designate to come to the stage to take the oath of office. Please raise your right hands and repeat after me. I do solemnly swear that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic, that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same, that I take this obligation freely
that I take this obligation freely
without any mental reservation
without any mental reservation
or purpose of evasion,
or purpose of evasion,
and that I will faithfully carry out
and that I will faithfully carry out
the responsibilities appointed to me today.
the responsibilities appointed to me today.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Thank you.
Thank you. At this time, we'll have a 15-minute break before returning for the inaugural meeting of the Commission. Thank you very much for your attendance.